Today we're going to cover how I removed the coating from the Razer Atlas, how it performs now without the coating, and then finally whether I feel like the coating is a positive or a negative for the Razer Atlas overall. Make sure you stick around to hear about the giveaway I'm doing as part of this video. So when I first reviewed the Razer Atlas glass mousepad, I loved the way it performed out of the box, but it did bother me that it had a coating that I couldn't see and that would wear down over time. I'm now no longer using my Razer Atlas day to day, and I wanted to satisfy my curiosity by removing the coating and testing it for a change in performance characteristics. There is quite an easy test to check the coating is intact. And if you place water on the surface and just kind of swish it around a bit, it will bunch up together if the coating is in place. But if it all spreads out on the surface, the coating has been removed. The first thing I want to say about this pad is it sounded like it would be pretty easy to remove the coating, but it really wasn't easy at all. I used the pad for about 800 hours when it arrived, and after that much playtime, the coating was still intact. And it took me 2 weeks of constantly bathing the pad in harsh chemicals, which were glass safe, and then scrubbing the surface with a sponge to remove it. I used a glass cleaner, acetone, bleach, and the final nail in the coffin was vinegar, which seems to clean everything. And of course, I used a washing up sponge to scrub the surface. I also used a few other questionable techniques to help it along its way. This is what water on the surface looked like with the coating intact. So very, very blobby, squiggle it around, and it just instantly goes back into a blob. And this is what water on the surface looked like after I removed the coating. Just gonna chuck some water on. See that there, all nice and blobby. We give it a little smush. It's nowhere near as blobbed up. It's all like dispersed across the surface. So you can be assured the coating has been removed. I have a few clips from my previous review, which is also linked in the description, to remind us of the pad's out of the box performance. And I'll provide an update in between clips to fill you in on how it's changed now it doesn't have a coating. When I received the Razer Atlas, these were my observations of how it felt. The most interesting feature though is the oleophobic coating. Your skin sticks less to the pad, is incredibly smooth to the touch. It feels buttery on your fingertips, but if I wanted to play without a sleeve, it's definitely more manageable on the Atlas than it is on the SkyPad. And now that I've removed the coating, this is how it feels now by comparison. The Atlas feels marginally stickier now without the coating. I think you'd have a harder time using this pad without a sleeve now the coating is gone. So your mileage will vary depending on your preference and your tolerance for having your skin on glass. The surface still feels very smooth. It isn't really noticeably different in this aspect, and it's still very buttery to touch. We'll talk now about the performance characteristics I observed when I received the Atlas. It feels a bit more sticky at the end of your swipes, like it has something to grip onto which the SkyPad doesn't, and this could be a side effect of the Atlas coating, which the SkyPad doesn't have. I have less of that slippery when on target feeling I mentioned previously on the SkyPad, and I find it easier to both track and flick on the Atlas. And this is how I observe the performance characteristics of the pad now. The surface is just as fast as it was before, but it has marginally less stopping power now, and we're splitting hairs here, to be honest with you, but it does feel slightly less noticeable now without the coating. It still has more control than the SkyPad, but not to the same degree as it did before. It's maybe more aligned with the Superglide performance now to provide you with a comparison. And finally, the sound test is where the biggest differences were found. So I tested 3 pads with Tiger Ice dots. That includes the Atlas with and without the coating, and you can see on screen how they performed. The blue highlighted area reflects the Atlas's scores, and the Atlas with the coating was very consistently quiet, with hardly any step up in sound between slow and fast swipes. But when you remove the coating, it gets much louder by comparison, with a more noticeable increase in sound between swipe speeds. It is now closely aligned with the sound profile of the Pulsar Superglide. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't actually noticeable to me in use. It's not exactly deafening or distracting, as it sounds extremely similar in reality to what it did before. But it is worth mentioning because the Razer Atlas is marketed as having quiet swipe treatment on the box. The only downside to the Razer Atlas for me
could be the oleophobic coating. It is unknown currently how long this will last before it wears out, and when the coating wears off, I'd be amazed if it didn't mess with the feel of the pad.
So with all that said and done, I've now got a Razer Atlas without a coating, and I still really like it. It's still a very nice pad that I will continue to use from time to time, but it is a little less special now. The characteristics which I really enjoyed out of the box are now slightly muted. But I really don't think that a user that wears this coating off through day-to-day use will actually notice the difference between having a coating and not having a coating. You can replace oleophobic coatings with products from Amazon, and I almost did that as part of this video. But I don't mind the pad as it is, so I'm pretty happy to carry on with it as it is for now. In hindsight, I think I'm guilty of maybe putting too much emphasis on the Razer Atlas coating in my initial review. While it has an impact, it's not the main sort of cornerstone of the Razer Atlas's performance. The surface itself is still solid without the coating, and I think the coating is way more durable than I gave it credit for in my previous video. I really appreciate all of the support you've shown me and my channel over the last 12 months. And as a way for me to give back to you, I want to do a giveaway. I'm going to give 2 of you £50 to spend on, hopefully, your next peripheral upgrade. It'd be wicked for me to feel like I've been a part of that for you. So click on the link in the description if you're interested. Thank you so much once again for stopping by.
The HSK Pro and Razer Atlas are now my favourite aiming combination, and I have found what I am looking for in this element of my gaming setup.
That didn't age well, did it?